Hello, hello, and welcome back to Organic Gardening for Beginners. My name is Jessica, and it is another month. Can you believe it? Here we go into April. We are going to be talking about your April garden checklist for this year. Trying to give you a few ideas for tasks to complete, seeds to sow, seedlings to start looking to buy, building soil, etc., etc. We're going to have one of these at the start of each month to help you keep on track throughout the year. And for reference, I'm in Western Oregon, Zone 8, just about an hour or so outside of Portland. So that's my reference. Obviously, climates, microclimates, all that good stuff vary wildly. So if you're buried in snow, you might need to adjust your weeks. If you are ahead of me in the South or Southern California, then maybe you already have some of these things checked off of your list. So it would be a fool's errand to try to give specific tasks for every region in the U.S., so I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that up to your discernment of figuring out how to work with your weather and use this checklist and all the following ones for that matter as just kind of a guide. So if you know that you're in a colder zone than me, then maybe you bump your month forward just a little bit. And likewise, if you're in a warmer climate. So with that disclaimer out of the way, because it's always tough, I want to say what I think you should be working on. But if you're buried in snow or, you're going to get 2 more months of rain, then obviously you got to tweak just a little bit. And while I'm thinking of it, before I jump into the first thing, I wanted to ask, do you prefer 1 or 2 episodes a week? I've been doing 2 episodes a week since I started the show again. Last week I only did 1. Maybe you noticed, maybe you didn't, just to kind of see what is the general consensus on preference out there. So if you want to shoot me an email, it is homegrownfoodandflowers@gmail.com. I'll have that in the show notes to let me know if you prefer 1 episode a week or 2. Maybe it's hard to keep up with 2. 1 is better. Maybe you have a long commute and you need more podcast episodes to queue up. I would be curious to find that out. Alrighty, so like I said, Zone 8, it's April. This is definitely a month where things start to pick up the pace and a lot of the pre-work for a good summer garden comes into play, as well as wrapping up some of the wintertime stuff. So specifically, this is a really good time to do any garden bed prep that you still have left on your list. If you have either, bought a bunch of seedlings or you've started a bunch of seeds and you need more space than what you've got, this is a great time to get a jump on it. Building new beds in the fall is awesome, and I would even say ideal, but we're not in the fall, we're in the right now. So a great way that you can make an instant bed is the good old cardboard and compost method. What this entails is laying down flattened compost so that you block the sunlight that's reaching the grass, and then you pile several inches of raised bed mix or compost or a combination thereof, and that is your raised bed. You just plant straight into that. I have done this many times with great success over the years, and I've done it different ways over the years. Most recently, I've actually just built some beds, I think a week or 2 ago. And all I did was lay down the cardboard, and then I took manured hay from my barn and put it right on top of the cardboard. I let it sit for that week or 2, and then just yesterday, I planted out some fava bean transplants and snap peas and a whole bunch of stuff straight into that mix. Now, there's no soil in there. It's old hay, old alfalfa, chicken manure, because my chickens have access to the sheep barn, sheep manure, some cow manure, and that's my planting medium. So I dug a hole, I cut a little hole in the cardboard so that the plant roots can access the native soil a little more easily, and I planted it. And it might sound scary to put a seedling into something that doesn't really have any soil in it, but I did this last year and it worked like a charm. It was amazing. The plants were really healthy. They had super robust growth. The worm population exploded with all that manure, and it was fantastic. I didn't have to buy a whole lot of potting soil. I didn't have to buy wood to make the raised bed. So if it's an option for you to find manure, I would highly recommend that. And if it's mixed with straw or hay, even better, because then you have some of the browns to complement the greens of the manure. If you know anything about compost, it's a mix of carbon heavy material with nitrogen heavy material. Carbon is the straw, manure is the nitrogen. If you don't have that, then if you can, I would suggest getting a good amount of compost or raised bed mix. I know that it's an upfront cost, but it works out to be a lot cheaper than buying bagged compost or bagged soil mix at the big box store or Home Depot or whatever. And it is a great return on your investment to make more beds. So without getting super deep divey into that, because I do have pest episodes about building new beds, this is a prime time of the year to do it if you didn't do it in the fall, of getting those new garden areas up and running, get them going so that they are ready to plant once you have all your seedlings ready to go. If you're growing in containers, this is also a great time to get all your pots ready, get them filled, make sure you have refreshed the soil from last year if you're reusing it, which for me usually looks like dumping it out in the wheelbarrow, mixing in either some fresh compost or fertilizer, worm castings, whatever you have available. And if it needs maybe some more perlite to help with drainage, or I mix in some wool from my sheep to help with water retention for the summer heat. Mix it all up, toss it back in the pot, and there you go. You are ready to plant once the weather is ready for it. If you are starting seeds, this is moving on to our next thing. So we talked about bed prep and soil and all that good stuff. For seed starting, if you haven't yet started your warm season crops, depending on your area, it might not be too late. For something slow growing like peppers, it might be a little bit late. I would say it's worth a shot if you've got the seeds and the time to start them yourself and you just didn't get to it, or it, kept falling down your to-do list. Give it a shot. Why not? Tomatoes, chances are you're going to be okay there. I actually just started some more tomatoes maybe 4-ish days ago, 5 days max, because I want to see if I can get them to catch up with the seedlings, the tomato seeds that I started 4 or 5-ish weeks ago. Just as an experiment, because I kind of want to see what is the latest that I can start tomatoes and get a decent harvest off of them. So if you are in a similar zone to me, or maybe even a little bit colder, then it might be worth sowing a few more tomato seeds indoors, not out. They won't do much for you at all outdoors. For all the cold season crops, you have plenty of time. The last 2 episodes have been all about seedlings and direct sowing and starting indoors. And last February has a ton of episodes about that too. But in general, the cold season crops of all the lettuces or greens or kale or cabbage, like those brassica type crops, those are all totally fine to sow right now. You might get a little bit less luck with something like cauliflower that gets a bit fussy as summer heat comes on, especially as it's producing its heads. But as with everything, it's worth an experiment to me, because even if the cauliflower doesn't produce a nice large head to harvest, the leaves are still tasty. Maybe you get some side shoots, or even just a small little cauliflower. My broccoli that I planted, I honestly prefer the little side shoots. So it's worth it to me, even if it's a little bit late for starting those. Doesn't matter. Do it anyways. It's always worth it. Worst comes to worst, you pull it out when it doesn't perform and you toss it in the compost bin. All good. It doesn't go to waste. If you've got chickens, toss it into them. They will devour it and thank you for it. It's also a great time to direct sow root crops like beets and radishes and carrots. They do very well at this time of year. You can probably get another round of peas. Fava beans are really cold tolerant compared to green beans, and so you might give those a shot. Hugh Richards, one of my gardening not mentors, he doesn't know me. I don't even know what to call it. He's the guy that I learned so much from. He's on YouTube. Check him out if you haven't yet. He talks about fava beans all the time, and so I'm growing them for the first time this year. And so far, they are so easy to grow, and the slugs have stayed away, knock on wood, so I'm excited to see how those turn out. If you've got transplants that you are buying or started yourself, don't forget to harden them off. Super important. I harp on this all the time. If you bought kale seedlings or cabbage or broccoli, get them hardened off, get them acclimated to the outdoor temperatures and sun exposure and wind. so that they are not unhappy with you once you transplant them and they take forever to bounce back and get growing. They don't mind cold weather or cold soil nearly as much as other crops like tomatoes, tomatillos, eggplant, peppers, all the warm season stuff. Even squash prefers warmer soil temperatures. Let's talk about bugs, because believe it or not, they are out already, even though the weather's not that hot yet. There are definitely cabbage moths out and about. I found my first Colorado potato beetle, yesterday, which shocked me. I've never seen one in April, so I was pretty upset about that. And I am not much of a bug killer, but I did kill this one because I don't want it to go and lay eggs and repopulate itself in the hundreds. So I killed it and fed it to my chickens. Sorry if that offends. Cutworms are out there. They also go to the chickens. One of the best line of defense at this point in the season is hand picking whatever you find. So if that means slugs or Colorado potato beetles, which look like a ladybug, but they're kind of this lime green with the black spots, they are not good. They fly. They are very jumpy. They're hard to catch. Aphids, I haven't seen any aphids, but that is definitely a hand picker, not by picking off each individual aphid. My goodness, you'd be there for forever. But you can spray them off with the hose, and that can help set them back. It doesn't usually get rid of them altogether because one aphid can repopulate itself so dang fast. It's not even funny. But it can kind of help give you a little bit of a feel-good feeling of, yay, I did something. And it will buy you a little time. In all honesty, it will. It just won't get rid of them altogether. So, Colorado potato beetles, cutworms, cabbage moths, the little green caterpillars, all those, if you can pick them off, that will help a lot because it's going to interrupt their life cycle and prevent them from laying eggs. If you're too squeamish for that, no big deal. What I like to do is get a container, fill it with soapy water, and then just go and tap the beetles or whatever it is into the soapy water. If they are too sticky, you can always just cut off the leaf if the plant is well leafed out enough to not mind missing a leaf. Or, kind of coax the bug into the soapy water with some scissors or clippers, like just kind of shove it off. Those are all options. You might put out slug traps if slugs are common in your area. They are definitely problematic in my area. Fortunately, the chickens in the greenhouse seem to have really cut down on our slug population, but they're definitely not gone. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I went out to the greenhouse where I was hardening off some stuff, and overnight something ate all of my celery seedlings, which made me so furious because this is the first time I'm growing celery, and they were doing so well. And I have a feeling it was an earwig because there was no slug snail trail anywhere. And it was either that or a cutworm, but these were in my seedling trays, so I find that hard to believe. So I think it was an earwig. I have had issues with those guys before. So it happens to the best of us. I'm going to start more celery because I really want to grow it this year and see if it's something worth adding to my garden. As a matter of fact, I got an email just the other day from somebody saying you don't mention organic treatments very often in your show, especially considering you're called Organic Gardening for Beginners. And really it's because I don't use a whole lot of products. I am very much I'll make the best of it type of gardener, such as the celery. Yeah, I'm annoyed that they died, but oh well, I'm going to start more seeds, so we'll see what happens. I'm not going to go out and, spray a bunch of stuff, whether organic or not. That's just not my style. So that's part of why I don't talk about it too much. But if you're looking for just a few things to have on hand this season that might help you, especially if you're in a pest-heavy area like the South, then BT is definitely one I would recommend. It's a bacteria that you spray on the leaves, and it, if I remember correctly, messes with the nervous system of things like caterpillars. So those cabbage moths or even the squash vine borers, if I remember correctly, if you catch them early enough, the BT will work on that. Very easy to find, super cheap, lasts forever. And as well as diatomaceous earth, DE. It's a white powder that can help a lot with ants or other exoskeleton type of critters. Sluggo is another product that I do use. That one is non-toxic to kids and pets. That's why I use it. It's pretty handy. There is the basic one that just targets slugs and snails, and then there's the Sluggo Plus that helps a lot with earwigs and cutworms, as well as the slugs and snails, obviously. And that one, it's not the cheapest product ever, but it lasts a really long time and it's super effective. And I don't know if this is nationwide, but I know Costco has a big container of it right now for a good price. So if you need it, then that's a good place to look. And then the last one, neem oil. I don't use neem oil, but it is one of the go-to organic methods for repelling certain pests. So definitely something to look into. I am not going to, speak to expertise on it when I just don't use it, but it is certainly an option for you. And then the last one, milky spore. I haven't used it yet. I thought about it in the South, but I ended up not. But it is really good for Japanese beetle grubs. So if you know you have Japanese beetle issues, this might be something you just apply it to the soil. It percolates in, it kills the grubs so that whole crop of new bugs don't hatch. It is organic, it's non-toxic, it's benign in that regard, but effective against the pests. So definitely something worth trying. And then the last topic on your checklist that I want to mention is feeding and mulching anything you've got in the garden. So feeding overwintered plants. If you have spinach or kale or carrots or broccoli, whatever plants made it through the winter in your garden, do them a favor and give them a little bit of a compost, side dressing. And this can be worm castings. This can be composted chicken manure, whatever you've got available. And that's going to give them a little bit of a boost as they go into spring. Your kale and other brassicas will go to seed soon if they haven't already. Keep an eye out for those little yellow flowers. They're delicious. I eat them along with the rest of the greens, but they are a biennial, so this is the year that they will put out their seeds, and you'll need to replace them. And then anything you're planting out that doesn't mind the cooler soil, go ahead and mulch them. That way you're getting a jump on any weed seeds. But if you, as the weeks go on, as you're planting out the warm season crops, wait until the soil has warmed up properly before you mulch. But be ready to do it, because once you have your plant out there, it's going to face all that competition from all the weeds. And so it's one of those tasks that if you do it early, it's just going to save you a load of labor down the road, especially when it comes to weeding. Everything on this checklist is what I've got going on right now. I have planted out a whole lot of greens, cold season herbs like cilantro and chives. My onions are waiting for a home. They really need to get out. And that's another great one that you can plant out now if you happen to see onion sets out at the store or the nursery or the market. I'm building those new beds, like I mentioned, making sure to mulch anything so that I don't have any exposed soil. And I'm just kind of waiting on consistently warm weather before I put out anything too warm. We're getting still mid-40s to high 40s nighttime temperatures, which is too early for anything warm season, even in the greenhouse. So I'm just occupying myself with the fava beans, the peas, the calendula that don't mind cooler soil, all my overwintered stuff, and just kind of biding my time, keeping plenty busy, as I'm sure you are in your garden, but waiting for that big May rush once the warm weather really kicks in. So if you have any questions about what to do, little specifics, I'm always getting great questions via email. Don't hesitate, to reach out and ask that question. I will address it as an episode if it's something that I'm hearing a lot. And also let me know if you prefer 1 or 2 episodes a week. And that wraps it up for this one. Talk to you later. Bye.